Merlin is played by Santiago Cabrera. What's up, Ragin Nation? How's it going? This is Alex Yu, and you're watching The Road to TF5. This is Webster's. We were talking about Transformers last night. This is episode number 175, and in this episode, I'm going to do a little bit of a commentary on this really comprehensive Empire Magazine article, which talks about the Transformers Cinematic Universe. I read it. It was a really, really good read. It's 4 pages long, and it's really, really comprehensive, and it talks about how the Transformers Cinematic Universe came to be from the very beginning of the writer's room all the way to the editing of Transformers last night. So what I've done is that I read the article and I took down notes and I came up with 20 points. So what I'm about to give you, or rather what I'm going to read out to you, is 20 things about the Transformers Cinematic Universe, brought to you by Empire Magazine. Alright, so let's just get right into it. So, number 1 is that Michael Bay was in Malta filming 13 hours when Paramount called him up about the writer's room. So he was busy, focused at work, working on 13 hours, and then he got a call from Paramount, and then he asked him, hey, what's up, what's going on? And he wasn't even sure if he was going to work on another Transformers film. I'm sure in his mind it was there somewhere, but it was really in the far corners because he was so focused on this film. Number 2, they wanted Bay, or rather Michael Bay, to be a part of it somehow, and by part of it, I mean Transformers 5. They wanted Michael Bay to be involved somehow, even as just a producer, if he wasn't even going to direct. They never even talked about him directing. They just said, hey, we got a writer's room going on, and we want you to be a part of it. We want you to just give us some input about it. So even if he wasn't going to direct, he'd still be serving as a producer. Number 3, the writer's room consisted of writers that were new writers as well as really seasoned writers, and they were put through Transformers School, which consisted of, or rather which outlined 14 billion years of Transformers history. That's a lot of content. It is just so much to take in, but I guess they were just learning in a very, very I guess a focused environment. And I guess that's the only way to go when you're short on time, because they really had to come up with a huge number of ideas within the before I guess it was time to start working on this film. Anyways, number 4, Matt Holloway is a Transformers geek because he grew up watching the original cartoons. That's always a good sign. Roberto Orci and Alex Kurtzman, the original writers of the very first film, they're fans of the original G1 cartoons, and because of that, I thought we ended up getting with the best Transformers film out of all 4 of the ones that are out so far. So knowing that Matt Holloway is a Transformers geek is awesome. It means that we actually do have some input. We got some input from somebody who loves it. So that's always a good thing. Number 5, writer Ken Nolan had never seen any of the films, so he binged watched all 4 of them, and he almost went insane. He wanted to go into an insane asylum. I guess that's a good and bad thing. I mean, again, Ken Nolan is the writer of one of my favorite films of all time, Black Hawk Down, and he just went nuts after watching Bayhem. 4 movies of just complete Bayhem, and I'm thinking it could be a good thing because he could write a story for a film which could be better than the last 4, and it also could be a bad thing, which he's gonna give us something really just completely ridiculous. So what he did, so here's point number 6. Ken Nolan pitched 2 ideas, but they were scrapped. And one of those ideas was a French Connection style Transformers film for adults. And if you don't know what French Connection is, it's this really old and classic action film with Gene Hackman, and it features one of the greatest car chases of all time. Like, the entire film is like a car chase. So that's what it would be. And he also pitched a Japan-based samurai Transformers film. That idea was scrapped, so that's pretty unfortunate. I actually like both ideas. Number 7, Ken Nolan had been working on a King Arthur script for quite some time, and because of that, that King Arthur script never actually took off. He was working on it, but it never got made into a film. but he was still very much into working on it. And because of that, he decided to incorporate a King Arthur story into a Transformers film. And of course, here we are with Transformers Last Night. Number 8. In this, I guess, King Arthur script for Transformers Last Night, Merlin was a drunk wizard who saved society with magical powers bestowed upon him by a Transformer. I'm guessing it would be Dragonstorm because of that red metallic being that hands him the staff. So that's how he got his magical powers. He never had magical powers until he ended up with the Cybertronian staff, which has a lot of Cybertronian technological capabilities, right? Number 9. The World War II idea was brought in by the Iron Man writing duo. And by Iron Man writing duo, I mean Art Markham and Matt Holloway. And it involved Autobots and Decepticons as World War II vehicles like tanks, and it also involved Nazis. So that's where that idea came from. So the King Arthur thing came from Ken Nolan. The World War II thing came from the Iron Man writing team. And there you have it. And they worked on their idea. Number 10. They worked on their ideas for 3 weeks, and then they met again later on to pitch their ideas to Michael Bay and the producers. So they came up with those ideas, and then they spent 3 weeks working on them. And then it was just a matter of the top guys, which includes Michael Bay, approving these scripts. There you have it. Number 11. Bay loved the King Arthur and World War II ideas so much that he wanted to mix them together for a single film. And it also included a sequel idea for Age of Extinction, which Akiva Goldsman came up with. So this is really a combination of writers. You know, the writing trio, Art Markham, Matt Holloway, and Ken Nolan, and also an idea from Akiva Goldsman. And what Akiva Goldsman did is that he incorporated another story, which is most likely the bulk of the film, I guess, that had something to do with Age of Extinction. It would tie directly with Age of Extinction. So I guess that was his contribution to Transformers Last Night, making it connect with the events of Age of Extinction. Number 12. It was then Michael Bay decided that he would direct Transformers Last Night, and those 3 writers, Ken Nolan, Art Markham, Matt Holloway, would be the official writers for Transformers Last Night. So Michael Bay loved the idea so much of King Arthur, World War II, Autobots and Decepticons, and this brand new story, which Akiva Goldsman pitched as a sequel for Age of Extinction, that he decided that, you know what, I want to be a part of this. I'm working on this film. I'm going to be directing it, and I want you 3 guys to be on board. So that's what happened. And I have a feeling that, you know, I can really picture his enthusiasm about it, because if you look at the last 4 films, it really follows a very similar formula. With this film, I guess it delves more deeper into lore. I feel that it's more story driven than a lot of the previous sequels. So I think that they're really going in a different but a really great direction. Number 13, they got everything they wanted. They wanted Sir Edmund Burton to be played by Anthony Hopkins. They got it. They wanted to have a psychopathic robot butler named Cogman. They got it. And also they wanted that butler to be voiced by Jim Carter from Downton Abbey, and they got it. And it all came down to Michael Bay. His powers in Hollywood. He gets whatever he wants. Remember when they were filming Revenge of the Fallen in Egypt? They were really the first film in, I don't know how long, but it's been a long time, and they were the first Hollywood film in a long time to actually film a sequence on the pyramids where they actually get to step foot on top of the pyramids. That's a pretty big deal. Number 14. Merlin is played by Santiago Cabrera. Wait a minute. Now this is a pretty big deal. Santiago Cabrera plays a TRF commander, or a TRF like one of the head guys in TRF, named Santos. And it also says that Santiago Cabrera is playing Merlin as well. Now we're kind of seeing like how there's a bloodline involved. You know how there's the Witwickens and Archibald Witwicky and now Sam Witwicky, and then of course there's the Knights of the Round Table, and then there's Sir Edmund Burton. Now there's Merlin and Santiago Cabrera. So that is one of the biggest shockers for me after reading this entire article. It says Merlin is going to be played by Santiago Cabrera. So there you have it. Number 15. There are not 14 films in development. So I took this down as a note because Michael Bay commented, or rather wanted to respond to how these these headlines were blowing everything out of proportions. And I actually knew that there was not 14 films in development. The key word is that there are 14 stories, and they're not really in development. There are 14 stories that they came up with, and out of those 14 stories, they picked like something that they liked out of it. Number 16. There's a vague outline for a 6th film that was written before Transformers Last Night came together. So there was a film for Transformers 6, okay? Keep in mind that this article is current, okay? It wasn't written a while ago. So that they're not referring to Bumblebee as Transformers 6. They're talking about a 6th film, which would be a sequel, which is followed after the events of Transformers Last Night. But the thing is that this 6th film was a story that came together before even the Last Night was even conceptualized. I guess they call it the 6th film because of the way the timeline works, how everything would happen chronologically. Number 17. 12 stories were pitched in the writer's room. So I don't know how they got 14 stories, but there were 12 stories that were actually pitched in the writer's room. They had 13 writers in there, which included Akiva Goldsman, considering Akiva Goldsman is the leader, the leader of the pact. He was leading this writer's room, so I guess each one of them pitched an idea. Number 18. 3 of those stories were consolidated, and it came down to Transformers Last Night, Bumblebee, which was set in the 1980s, and an animated Cybertron prequel set billions of years ago. Now, the one thing that catches my mind is the Bumblebee film, which will be set in the 1980s. Totally called it. That's insane. I can't believe they're actually going with it. And when I was doing an episode of Bumblebee's journey, I was thinking like the most appropriate time to set a Bumblebee film would be in the 1980s. Because of a lot of things, story-wise, character-wise, and also timeline-wise. So it just would make sense that Bumblebee was set in the 1980s, and this is a great opportunity to have Bumblebee as an actual Volkswagen Bug. Number 19. There have also been discussions for a Transformers film set in ancient Rome. Hey, you know what? This sounds familiar. This sounds familiar mainly because this is not the first time that an ancient Rome story has been talked about. If you look back at this really great article that was put together like an interview. Okay, there was this interview with Lorenzo de Bonaventura, and he said something about how Transformers doesn't necessarily have to take place on Earth or in modern times. And he said that you could do different time periods. For sure, you could do that. And we've examined. You could easily make an argument that in Roman times, you know what I mean? That seems like a good period. Hey, you know, I didn't think that actually meant something when he said that. I thought he was just like, you know, just suggesting something off the top of his head. But there's a reason why he said ancient Rome. Okay, Roman times. And that's because that idea has been discussed. And it turns out that there has been discussion for a Transformers film set in ancient Rome. And I think that's a cool idea. I guess it would only depend on how Transformers Last Night turns out if they decide they want to do an ancient Rome thing. Because, you know, having a portion of Transformers Last Night set in during the times of like medieval times, I think that's a really cool thing. But you can only make the Transformers characters look so interesting as knights, just because if you look at the Knights of Cybertron, they all look a certain way. So, unless there's time travel involved where they bring in like modern vehicles and modern looking Autobots and Decepticons into ancient Rome, then I think that would be interesting. But other than that, having all the Autobots and having all the Decepticons dressed out in gladiatorial armor, like Cybertronian gladiatorial armor, I think it's just gonna look a little bit too repetitive, as in like they repeat the same style of armor and the look upon all the characters. I think that they need distinguishing factors, but it's a cool there's a cool idea. I think it's a cool idea. I think they're really reaching out in terms of really getting really creative with this. And finally, number 20, and this is more appropriate for the Bumblebee's Journey web series that I do, but here's the fact. Bumblebee will be tonally for a younger audience and will have fewer Transformers. Hey, I'm just happy that they're having Transformers in it at all. I mean, when I thought of a Bumblebee's spin-off film, I was thinking it's just going to be Bumblebee and humans, and then he's going to deal with human conflicts. I thought it was kind of going to be like that when I first heard about it, but I'm just so glad to know that there will be Transformers in it. Not as many in the last 5 films, but they still will have Transformers in it. I think it's time to bring in brand new characters. If it's going to be set in the 80s, it's going to be really interesting to see more 80s style Transformers characters. It's going to be pretty cool. I have really good faith in this. I have more faith in this being an actual good movie than I do Last Night. I think Transformers Last Night is going to be spectacular. It's going to be awesome. It's going to blow my mind. I'm going to have lots of like nerdgasms and all that. But I think that as a film, as a storytelling piece, I think Bumblebee will actually be a more cohesive film and a more character driven. And well, I think the Transformers Last Night going to be definitely character driven, but Bumblebee is definitely going to be a lot more focused, and that's great. It's going to be totally for a younger audience, and you can tell that. You know, Bumblebee is a huge fan favorite amongst a lot of younger Transformers fans, so it makes sense for it to be tonally for a younger audience. And when Michael Bay was working on Transformers the very first film, he said that he was never going to make Bumblebee a Volkswagen Bug. He just wasn't going to have that happen. He doesn't like that idea, so it makes sense that he wasn't a part of this. Travis Knight's directing, and I think for him to make Bumblebee a Volkswagen Bug, I think it's very accessible for kids. Especially there's this film called like Herbie why did I say Herbie Hancock? Herbie the Love Bug. Herbie the Love Bug is this film about a Volkswagen Bug that actually has a mind of its own. He's not a robot, but he has a mind of its own. And this is a very old film, but it's a fun film that had a target demographic for kids. So anyways, I guess it's kind of going along that similar type of idea, because the Bumblebee as a Volkswagen Bug, like that Bug is actually a cute looking vehicle. So I think kids will connect with it a lot better. Anyways, that's all I gotta say in this episode. I'm gonna expand upon that whole Bumblebee, all the information about Bumblebee in an episode of Bumblebee's Journey. But anyways, why don't you let me know? Why don't you let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about how you feel about all of this? And there you have it. There's a lot of information about the Transformers Cinematic Universe, and I'm not sure if a Roman Empire Transformers film would work, but I would have loved to see a French Connection style film and a samurai-based, Japan-based Transformers film. That would be super cool. Anyways, as always, if you enjoyed this episode and you want to see more, hit the like button, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Like me on Facebook, The Ragin Nation. Also follow me on Twitter, Ragin Nation. My name is Alex. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Peace. Dragon Storm, and it's a combination of black and red in the paint job, okay? This night is a combination of metallic and red.